Hey, welcome back to the channel. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about workflow when you're dealing with writing, whether you're writing a novel or trying to repair one you've already written. One thing that every writer faces is the conundrum of how to fix a novel or even how to start one when the idea is all we've got and we don't really know where we want to go. And fortunately, we're in a time now where there's so much writing software out there that we really have a lot of allies in the corner and helping us not only write but also to fix what's broken. And I do highly recommend doing research wherever possible in order to make the most of your efforts. What I want to cover today is I want to actually show you a few programs I've got that I find useful in just analyzing my own work and then trying to fix it. And I want to try to keep this as short as possible, but I do want to emphasize that I've got several programs at play here and I just want to show you the advantages of each one. There's no right or wrong way to do this, and I'm only offer this video as a source of information and possibly advice. I've been writing for a long time, and I find there's always a better way to handle something I've already done. And one thing I can note is back in 2015 and 2016, when I was experimenting with writing ebooks and seeing if I can get any readers. Spoiler alert: I'm still trying to find readers after all these years. And I know there's a lot of information out there about marketing, which that's another story for another day. But one thing I've kind of noticed is that there really is something to be said about taking your time. And that's typically my pattern is I'll write a draft of something, and I'm one of these types that you call a pantser, where if you don't have anything more than a concept or an idea, you just start writing the scenes and see where it goes, and eventually you'll get to the end and hopefully it'll work. I've done that with most of my novels leading up to pretty much now. Including my epic superhero stories, the modern day fantasy series, which right now it's Cannonball City and Superheroes Anonymous are the two that are currently purchasable. The others I never quite got to that state where I could put them on sale. That's mainly because I want to go back and just kind of redistribute some of their scenes and make them a little more manageable to read and not such monster tomes. But that's another story for another day also. But one thing I did in 2015 and 2016 is I just knocked out a bunch of stories at once, and in order to get an audience going. And what I didn't do is I didn't take the time to find out if they were actually really ready for market. And so what I've been doing since 2016 is repairing the damage I've caused to my own work by going back and not only rebranding but looking for weaknesses in the stories that I've already told and try to fix them. So there's two stories that I have out right now that one is definitely in need of improvement. The other is fine as is, but can still have room for growth. And so I'm trying to repair both of them. If you have any connection to any of the work I've already put out, you'll see that most of the stories that I've got on Google Play, which I have a 5-part video series on prior to this. Those books have gone through the gamut of going back to the research, going back through the rebranding efforts. I've done all that I really plan to do with those, other than Gutter Child, which might get another version as a full-fledged novel with a different title at some point, but you can look at my blog for information on that. But I still have about half my library that I want to go back and fix. So there's two stories in particular. There's the Fallen Footwear, which you can see here in my Snowflake Pro program, that I want to take from short story to novel, or at least long novella. And then Computer Nerd, which is the thriller that I wrote, the marital thriller, that is actually pretty good as is. If you are looking for a kind of a thriller mystery that's accessible, I mean, you can read the version that's online now, and I doubt you'll hate it. I have 3 reviews so far. 2 of them are 5 stars. One's a 1 star, and I'm suspicious about that 1 star because I have no idea what the comment's about because it doesn't seem to apply with what I've written. But I don't understand reviewers sometimes, so it is what it is. But it's certainly the kind of book you can read, but I've acknowledged that I can also make it better. So I have, in this video, I am going to be covering my process for tackling both of these stories using 4 programs that I find are particularly helpful in getting myself organized. Now again, I'm a pantser by nature, but I'm trying to make use of the Plottr style. So if you are a plotter or a pantser or a hybrid, you can definitely make use of this video. So I do hope you'll stick with it. I don't know how long it'll be, but keep in mind I'm going to be covering 4 different products So hopefully you'll get some ideas. And then I want to also address a fifth one that I don't yet own, but I definitely would like to look into before the video ends. So, stay tuned for that. The programs I'll be using in this video are Snowflake Pro, which is what you're looking at right now. Plottr, spelled Plottr, which will be after this. And then, of course, Scrivener and Word will be the follow-ups. And if you've seen my other videos, you'll know that I'm pretty much a fan of Scrivener and Word, but I haven't had a lot of videos on how to use them for repairing a novel. So anyway, that's what's in store for this video, so I hope you'll stick with it. And so let's take a look. So Snowflake Pro is a program developed by the author of the Snowflake Method, Randy Ingermanson. If you have not read his books, you should. And I'll go ahead and quickly show you where to find this and his books. So this is the website where you can find the Snowflake Pro and the Snowflake Method books. Again, the author is Randy Ingermanson, and this is his website, advancedfictionwriting.com. I highly recommend this method. For the longest time, I put off learning about it because I just, I figured it's one more thing. What else, what do I really need to know about this? Turns out this is actually the way I like to write, and so this method is very much in line with what I prefer. So I definitely want to recommend it, and if you want to give it a try, just go to this website, Advanced Fiction Writing. You'll have to buy his book for the program to be free. He used to sell it for $100, but he's decided to make it free for writers as long as they invest in his books. So that's, it's real simple. I think the book is maybe $13 if you buy a paperback, or it's like $6 or $7 for ebook. It's a very low investment, and the book's pretty good too. It's basically adapts the Three Little Bears and Goldilocks and turns them into basically a writing critique group. It's pretty funny. But check it out if you haven't already. But this is where you'll get the program. And I believe this is the tool here. And then just make sure you respect his wishes when you download it. But once you do, it's free to use. And so check it out. So once you get the program and download it and open it, you're going to have a series of tabs here, starting with the welcome screen. And it'll walk you right through the process. And there's 10 steps total on the Snowflake Method, and the program makes it really easy to just identify what the 10 steps are. Even if you buy the book, you don't technically have to read it to get what the Snowflake Method is. The program, again, will do everything for you, but the book definitely helps in seeing it put to practice. So if you bought the book but haven't read it yet, I would do that before you really get going on this. It's worth it. It's a fairly quick read. It's, normal book length, but it's not terribly boring, so definitely look into it. But once you open the program, you can start defining it. And I find that this is a really good place to start whenever you're coming up with a new idea, because the thing with the Snowflake Method is it goes from the snapshot level and works your way into the more detailed stuff. So the quick version, if you look at these tabs, is it walks you through the overview of what the project is, including who your target reader is, about what you expect it to be. So you can see for Fallen Footwear, my short story, which is, by the way, really bad. Please don't download it. It's garbage, and I really need to just take it off the internet. But when I finish the novel version, it'll be a lot better and it'll be more pointed. And you'll see that with the Snowflake Method, it gives you an opportunity to really kind of drive down your main idea. And so later on when I go to Plottr, you're going to find I actually started the Plottr file first. And while I like Plottr and plan to use it, I do think that it kind of got me off on the wrong foot, whereas Snowflake is getting me on the right foot. It gives me something to really think more clearly about. So if you are going to use both programs, or if you're going to use another outlining program other than Plottr, I still would recommend you at least give Snowflake a try, because it'll put you on the right footing. And so when you go through the different tabs, author just gives you like author bio and address. I'm not going to click on that for privacy, but when you go into the sentence, paragraph, all of that, you'll find that you have an opportunity to really build on your premises. And so that's the nature of Snowflake, is you're taking a small concept and you're constantly building on that until the point where you have a full-fledged scene, chapter, and outline, and so on. So it really gives you an opportunity to see your project from the bird's eye point of view, while also developing it into a more fully formed feature. And what also is great about it is it helps you identify whether or not the book will even work. That's really the thing that every author needs to know before he even starts writing a book is, will it work? Is it a good idea? And while Snowflake method cannot actually tell you it's a good idea, it really has to come down to your own research and ingenuity and ultimately knowing the market. But at least it gives you an opportunity to see if you can in fact develop your ideas. So that's what I like about it. And so I think it's a great starting point if you are trying to figure out a new concept. Even if you're trying to repair something you've already written, if there's a reason why it needs repair, maybe the concept itself doesn't work, it might be worth going nuclear option, starting from the beginning, which is what I'm doing with Fallen Footwear here. And so in those cases, you can still take the concept and the characters, but you're reshaping it through a new lens. So I definitely think Snowflake Pro via the Snowflake method is, or vice versa, whichever way you want to take it, it's a great way to start a new system. So if you're trying to figure out your workflow, I would highly recommend start with Snowflake Pro. And again, it's free as long as you have a copy of this book. So if you don't yet have a copy of this book, go buy it. It's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the places. Again, the author is Randy Ingermanson, Ingermanson. And it's a good read. And he's got another book too on scenes, which actually mine's in the mail, or will be as soon as they print it. So, I'm probably not going to do a video on that, but just FYI, he's got 2 books and both are probably worth it. And I think they both work on the same principle, which is to start small and get bigger as you go. All right. So once you have your idea formulated through Snowflake, it's a good idea then to start going through and doing more fine tuning. Now, the program of choice is really up to you. Right now, I have a copy of Plottr, which is $25 per year, which you're not required to renew it. Whatever version you buy will update for the entire year, and then if you want additional updates past that time, you'll have to buy a new license. But if you decide you don't want to buy the new license, you can still use the program you have. You're not locked out of it. It just means you're not going to get any additional updates. And Plottr, it's been around I think since 2017, but they're still putting out some of their best features as of now. In fact, they've relaunched I think 2.0 in the last couple of months. So they got their roadmap on display. So you can always go take a look at that. But again, that's spelled Plottr, and there'll be links in the description for that. But once you have your idea planned out, then you may want to actually formulate the entire book. Now, Snowflake, you may get everything you need out of the Snowflake method, and you may not even need this. But if you want something a little more tangible, a little more fluid, then I would recommend something like Plottr, or the other one that I have my eye on that I don't yet own a copy, but you may want to look into if it's more up your alley, is Campfire Pro or Campfire Blaze, which is the online version, which will come out I think this fall, and that'll be a web-based subscription, all that stuff, all the fun stuff. But it's again something you're going to want to look into, and I'm going to probably in the video just taking a quick look at it just for reference. But whether you use Plottr, Campfire, Plot Factory, is it Fiction Factory? There's a few of them out there that all kind of do the same thing. You really just pick which one is your favorite, but the idea is you probably want something that's visual, and so that's what Plottr does, and programs like it. YWriter has a version of this that's free, but just not as good looking. That's why I have Plottr. Again, you can look at the YWriter videos for an example of that. But if you look at the timeline, you'll see what I'm talking about. They have an opportunity to be able to click on the scenes, and you can actually edit what you want in the scene. And it's a great way to just kind of stay organized. There's plenty of videos on Plottr. I recommend you take a look at them. In fact, Plottr website I think has an entire tutorial on everything that it does. So it's worth your time to investigate it. But the short version is you can customize the look, and you can filter what you want to show depending on what your tags are and so on. And then you'll see that you have an outline form. This is printable through export, and so this can go right into a Word document that you can use either on Word or in Scrivener or whichever organizational source you have. You can make your notes. You have character templates, this is what I personally like. You can actually customize your attributes. So for Gary Hartland, for example, you'll see that I've given him an entire list of ideas here, and I try to think about what is important about character to follow, and I've adjusted my template for that. It's worth knowing that in Plottr in particular, it's still kind of a work in progress, the program itself. So there's still some features that I think could be improved on, like sorting, for example. If I click on this page, and if I decide to update any of these traits, all I can do is add to them. I can't shuffle them right now. I can't move them around. So it's a little complicated, unless, well, I don't know. They just put out an update, so I actually don't know if I might actually have some features I don't know about, because it's been about a month since I've looked at this, and it just updated a little while ago. So, there might be some things. But anyway, there's still a few limitations to it, but it's still a great program to use when you're just getting yourself organized. And again, it has things for characters. It has a thing for places. So I've developed the shoehorns. No, the rising footwear is the one I developed. That's where Gary works. And so I have an entire template of things I might want to know for particular businesses or companies. Campfire Pro has a feature that this does not have that I think is really useful. It's a map making feature where you can actually import maps and then pin them, and then those can lead to other maps. So you can actually visual. So if I wanted a floor plan for Rising Footwear, Campfire Pro would actually cover that, and that's one I think advantage that Campfire has over most of the competing software is it's got really advanced visual elements. But if you're writing something that doesn't really require layouts or graphics, Plottr is perfectly fine. And then tags is just whatever you want to create. Hopefully, they'll have like a starter list of tags that are common. That's something Scrivener comes with, is starter tags. So it just makes it easy to label the things that you want as you think about them. But what Plottr does better than most of the others is it has a series manager. So if I wanted to do a second Fallen Footwear book, I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, I could add it here. And then I just keep it within the series. What it doesn't yet do well, as far as I know, is share the characters, but I'm sure they will at some point. I can't imagine that the software won't eventually give you that opportunity. But yeah, if you want something that's visual that you can kind of move around, that's what's nice about this, is you can, if I wanted the expensive dinner to be way over here, I could do that. I would have to create a chapter for that. Or if you want multiple plot lines, or if you want multiple viewpoints and have timelines for each viewpoint, you can add that. So what's also a really great selling point on this is you can actually do different types of templates. So for example, if I didn't want to do just my own thing, if I wanted to do save the cat method, oh, here we go. So you can actually use like a new from template, and you can see that you have a bunch of different templates in place. So you have Hero's Journey, Dan Harmon's Story Circle, 7 points, and so on. I've been currently reading Save the Cat, the novel version, and I think it's a really strong format. So, if there's anything on here that you like, use it, and just plug it in. But I kind of like my own template for now. But anyway, Plottr is a great way to take once you actually know what your premise is and you really refine it, Plottr is a good place to start planning out your scenes if you're into planning. And again, if you're a pantser, you may want to skip it entirely, but if you really want to try to stay organized, I think Plottr or software like it is a good way to go. So once you actually have your scenes planned, then of course you got to write them. It's really that simple. And I still find that Microsoft Word, for all of its limitations, is still the best tool to use for just flat document writing. Just straight on to the end. It's got all of your formatting tips, or all your formatting tags that you need, like italics and small caps and whatnot. And it's a great way to just really get a full picture of what you want in your scene. Again, it's limited because all it is a document. You can't really compare it to other documents in the story. You only have it for the whatever is in front of you. So for the actual writing the scene, I highly recommend using Word, or if you are a Google Docs user, you can use that. But just something that's dedicated document writing, because I just think that really does the best job keeping you centered on the writing. And you may have a different program. I know there's multiple programs out there that turn off distractions. If you need your distractions turned off, good for you. But the thing with Word in particular is you have access to all of the different font styles, all of your different formatting types like boldface, italics, strike through, so on. And you've got just the resource of quick elements that you can use to kind of organize your scene within the scene. And so if you don't have Word, you should at least get an equivalent to it like Google Docs or something that really allows you to maintain not just formatting, but allows you to kind of think about the visual layout of your scene as you write it. So there's really no substitute, in my opinion. And once you have your documents together, you can keep them all in the same folder. Right now I have, this is my revision 2 folder. If I go into backup spot, you'll see I have, this is all my revision 1 stuff. It's easy to stay organized with your various documents just by using Word and Explorer together. And this is essentially what other programs like Scrivener will do, but this is kind of your raw location for everything, and it's a great way to make sure you keep versions of all of your revisions. And my recommendation for workflow and also just for life is never throw anything out. You may have write a chapter you don't like or a scene you don't like. That's fine. Just don't throw it out. Just make a new version with a new label. My process is typically to have the acronym for the story. The V2 stands for version 2 because, again, I'm replacing the one that's currently online with something that's more comprehensive and just does a better job adhering to the genre of thriller. Right now, the current version, again, perfectly readable, nothing wrong with it, but it's just a little flat on the thriller genre, and it's kind of more in the psychological thriller category. And so it's, again, perfectly readable, but I felt like what I want to do with both the story and my brand, I think it required an extra subplot, which is what I'm, in a different opening, so that's kind of what I'm doing here. And so all of these chapters here are essentially new material, things that do not exist in the current book. So there's a lot going to be going into the new book. Just FYI, if you haven't read it yet, I will have it available sometime, hopefully in the next year. I could probably have it out like this fall, but I want to actually get my ISBN so I can do paperback versions, so it'll take a little longer. But anyway, but yeah, you can see that my process is simply, have your core version and then just add new revisions as I go. And if you ever see revision 2, it's because I'm actually going into the next phase of revision. If you ever look at Cannibal City's list of revisions, like 12 of them, it's crazy. But this is also kind of replica of the old way I would used to write a book, because now I have all this different software. I can manage my organization a little bit better. So that's going to take us now to Scrivener. So Scrivener right now is, I think, an essential tool for me, not for the writing, but for the organization. So one of my weaknesses as a writer and as a person is organization. Just trying to be able to keep track of where everything is something I used to be better at when I was younger, but as I get older, I find that it's more difficult to keep track of everything, to have the big picture view that I used to, again, have no problems with when I was younger. And so Scrivener really helps me with the big picture stuff. And that's kind of what I'm doing here with Computer Nerd in my version 2 draft. Is what you're looking at here over on the side is you're looking at all of my current scenes that are new and not integrated with the original. Down here I actually have all of my original chapters from the original book. And it's actually, these are long chapters, so it's a much longer book than it looks in comparison. But as I write scenes, and I like some scenes, I'm not sure about others, and then of course I'm not sure about the placement of the ones I've written, and I'm not sure how well they integrate. I just find it's a lot to work with in order to try to figure out where I want to go. It's also the case too where, if I have a plot idea that I completely forgot about, like I started developing, and then I completely forgot, and then my new plot goes in contrary to what I've established, that's not good. And so I have to be able to put a stop to that before it starts. So with Scrivener, once I write the scene in Word, I can actually convert it to the scene here and actually use it to not only have the content, but I can make my notes over here. I can label it by scene, by draft. If I have, like right now I've broken it all up into scenes, so everything's got the scene label rather than the chapter label. And then for the status, you can customize your statuses. So no status all the way to done are part of Scrivener's default tagging, but the stuff down here, stuff that I've added for my personal needs. And I did this because I know that I need to know this. Like there's a particular scene that I wrote, not realizing that I had already had a scene just like it for the same purpose already in play. And I thought, oh, well, now I got to figure out how to combine these scenes because I can't use them all because that's not going to work for the story. Same thing needs confirmation. Like maybe I like the scene, I like how it's written, may even like where it's placed, but I just don't know yet if it really is where it belongs. So needs confirmation means it's about ready for the first draft, but I just want to make sure. Needs organizing would be like within the scene. Maybe I like the scene's idea, but maybe I'm not a big fan of how it's laid out, so I might want to go back and review how it's laid out. It could also be based on missing details that I think are important. Concept only is just something that I wrote to see how it works, and I don't know if it's going to actually work, but it's there in case it does work. And then multiple issues would be any scene that's got more than one issue, in which case I would just list the document notes what those issues are. Positioning would be anything that might be, the scene might be good as it is, but maybe not where it is. So that would be something that I would label for, or that I would want to be able to figure out what to put. And then I also have my scenes are the core label, and then the chapter dashes are the part within the chapter where they would tentatively go. And then I've got my synopsis over here so I can keep track of where I am so that I can do my big picture view from the folder and see essentially where I'm at. Now this is again in progress. This is all just first act note cards. I have to put in all of my remaining book stuff in here, and then also fit in scenes that I still need in order to make the rest of this work. But as you can see, Scrivener is a great way to use an organizational system for the scenes you've already written. So that's where it differs from Plottr or anything like it. So with Plottr, it assumes that you're trying to figure out what your story will be from the ground up. Whereas my system here with Scrivener is that I've already written the book, but I just don't know yet if it works. And so I can use Scrivener in order to identify, whether or not my scenes work and in the context of the entire story. And these various labels are going to be there to help me really just kind of move things around until I have something that I like. So, for example, the scene 28 here, potential redundancy. This is the scene I was talking about before, where I wrote it long before I wrote some of the stuff that's basically the same thing. And so I liked this scene as it was written, but its competing scenes, which are 20 and 22, I don't know. So I have to go through and actually review them all in context to see which one is my favorite, or if there's any way I can integrate them all. So this is where I think having all these systems coming together really helps with the workflow. It can be a little chaotic depending on how you work, but I don't think anyone's a true plotter or a true pantser. I do think that most of us kind of operate within the middle ground, which is why Snowflake method exists. And if you are in that middle ground, you may want to consider having some kind of system where you can integrate all these different resources together in order to figure your way through. Now, you may not actually need to have Scrivener in play if you've got the others, or you may not need Plottr if you have Scrivener, depending again on how you work. With the Computer Nerd in particular, again, the book already exists, it's already published, but I'm not satisfied with the version that's online. I know I can do better, and so that's what I'm trying to do here. So for me, I'm trying to be able to add in new scenes while not damaging the integrity of the ones that already exist. So I find that having a system using Scrivener where I can label scenes and be able to see how they fit in with the greater narrative is helpful. You may not feel that way. So if you are of a different mindset, do a different system. But it's all good. And then there's programs out there too that have mind maps that have I think Campfire is another one that does that. Which actually, let's take a look at Campfire now while we're talking about it, and then we'll end the video with that, just so you can see what I'm referring to. So right now what I'm looking at is the Campfire Pro website at campfiretechnology.com. And what Campfire Pro is, it's a story planner like Plottr and the Plot Factory and others like it, where you can actually develop your story by the components and not so much by the writing. Bear in mind that when we go look at things like Plottr, or Snowflake Pro, or any of the programs that are similar to that, they're strictly planning tools, they're not writing tools. So if you do invest in any of these programs, just know what you're getting. Campfire Pro is a planning tool where you write scene cards and character cards and all these different elements that allows you to have all of your elements in one place. But again, this is one of those programs I think is worth looking at. It's ideal for people who write games or like role-playing games in particular. If you're a fantasy novel or sci-fi writer, Campfire Pro is a great resource to have. The thing about Campfire Pro is it actually has these relationship trackers where you can actually plan out who belongs to who, and as far as like friends, family, coworkers, and so on. Like you can customize your relationship trackers. So I think that's a strong advantage it has over most of the other planners. Same thing with maps. If you have maps that you want to use in your writing, again, something that a lot of fantasy writers, some mystery writers might even do, like floor plans for mansions. I know my favorite book of 2018, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, has a planner for its mansion where it takes place. So, if you want visual graphics, you can actually put them in your Campfire Pro as a resource in order to keep track of where things are happening. And you can even pin them, certain scenes within them, like you can see in the example here. When you add location, you click on it and it'll take you to the page where that location gives you the feedback and information. And if you have the world building pack, which is an extra cost but not that expensive, you can go even deeper into the lore, into languages, and so on. So Campfire is definitely something to look at if you are an extensive planner beyond just simple plotting for your plot. If you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of your story's lore or background, Campfire, I think, is, in my opinion, a way to go. They are replacing Campfire Pro with a new version called Campfire Blaze, I believe, starting in September 2020, and that'll be web-based, not app-based, or not. It's not something you'll be able to put on your desktop yet. Now they may do a desktop version later on. But do be aware that Campfire Pro, it's a one-time cost of, I think, $50, and then if you want the World Builder, it's an extra $25. But if you do Blaze, you're going to be buying it by the component. So, and I think it's like $30 per component for the lifetime access, or maybe like $8 for monthly or annual use. So you decide what you need, so you can customize your software as you go when you get Blaze. But again, they're still prototyping it, so if you're watching this video before September 2020, you're probably not going to have access to that yet, but that's okay. You will soon, because this video is late July. Anyway, so that's something to consider. And like I said, there's plenty of opportunities for you to really build something fantastic with these software elements that you have at your disposal. I highly recommend looking at all of them. There's other software out there, like, again, Plot Factory. There's one I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's got the word fiction in it. But just do a search on story planning software, and you'll find a lot of good ones out there. So if none of these cut it for you, you look into those others. But the point being is you can have a decent workflow using multiple resources to really kind of find your sweet spot for development. And I just wanted to do this video to remind you that you're not stuck on one particular element or one particular program. Get your Scrivener. You don't have to write in Scrivener. Most people who use Scrivener don't actually write in Scrivener. Most of us use it to plan. It's just that's what Scrivener is good at. It's very flexible in that regard. But if you want to use it to track your project, you can do that. It's versatile, but again, it's not for everybody. So if you have a different system, use it. Some of these planning programs, they have export tools that allow you to export your elements into a document, so you can import that into Scrivener. Again, there's ways to do this to make it work, but when you find your resource, when you find your sweet spot, keep at it. And then I would encourage you to comment below any, not advice you have, but any system you have that works, because it might give some other readers and watchers some ideas. So do be sure to comment with your opinions. Hey, and one more quick final note before I call it for this video is, if you are a world builder, if you're building a fantasy novel, sci-fi, or if you just want to write a complex, con mystery where you have to, do floor plans and things, I do want to recommend this program called, it's CC3 Plus is the short version, but it's called Campaign Cartographer 3. It's been out for over a decade, and it's something that, again, a lot of game designers use for their fantasy games. But Humble Bundle recently had a bundle that had a lot of their Pro Fantasy Software's products, including cartography and all their designer suites, like what is it? The add-ons like City Designer, Dungeon Designer, and all that, perspectives. If you want to make maps for your books, or if you want to, just for your planning, like if you use Campfire, and you just want to have a visual to work with, I would highly recommend looking into this software. It's a little on the pricey side if you get it a la carte, but you can look at their packages. The most expensive package is, I think, over $600, but that gives you literally everything that they offer. And they offer like 13 years worth of back products, if not longer. So it's worth your time to look into this site and look at the products if you are a super planner where you really want to see your maps, or you want to see the worlds you're building. It's a little extra time to develop it, but really worth the payoff. And also too, if you are someone who maybe you don't want to put your maps in a book, but maybe you want a incentive to give somebody a lead magnet, and you want to give them like a large PDF or large JPEG of the world map of your book. These are ideas you can use. So I would look into it if you are writing that kind of story. If you're writing a romance, about two chemists at a place that doesn't really matter, then this probably won't matter either. But if you're writing that thriller where they're trying to get away and you don't know how they're going to get away, this might be a good way to plan your steps. So just something to think about. Anyway, I'm not an affiliate to any of this stuff. These are just tools that I have that I like, or plan to buy in the case of Campfire. And I really think that they add dimension to your planning protocol. So if any of this stuff really works for you, give it a shot. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you stuck to the end. If you didn't stick to the end, shame on you. But if you did, thank you. And please come back for the next video. So again, don't forget to comment and let me know what your process is. Thanks. Bye.